It's a long and winding road, I guess. You know what I mean? Uh, I grew up in Miami, Florida. I grew up to immigrant parents that moved here from. I came into golf learning from Andy Plummer, who had developed a system for golf, a three-dimensional system, which included the all the measuring and the charting of the range of motion of every joint, including the spine. And so it was an education. And Andy used to say, Chris, people don't need a lesson; they need an education. And so that's the kind of the ethos that I brought to golf instruction. I studied the P system. I studied all the joints. Part of my education, which this weekend for the PGA show, I'll be in Orlando at the famous Bay Hill Club, Arnold Palmer's old home course, and I'll be doing a continuing education course that lasts all day. And there's an anatomy component where we have to study the range of motion of every joint. There's a biomechanical component where we understand how force and pressure is used to produce power and to control the flight of the ball. And then there's just an overall what we would call the three-dimensional system for golf. So there's many different ways to do it, but as an instructor, you're not trying to fit a player into a certain box. You just need to understand how the body works, how the clubs are designed. And I'd say it comes down to really understanding the geometry and the physics of the swing. That way, you don't have to get really detailed with the player and use big words and sound like the smartest guy in the room. You have a way to simplify it down into feels. But the way I try to say it, Brian, is that it's sophisticated enough to where if I get an extremely detailed question from a tour player or an expert player, I would be able to answer that question. But then it's also simple enough to where we can start with a brand new beginner and show them how to strike the ball and get the ball in the air and start to control the ball. So it's really based on the player that's in front of you, and you're you're trying to get the best understanding of the best way for that player to execute that shot. And so one of the big skill sets you have to have is you have to learn how to communicate differently. And it may be a similar concept, but you have to learn how to say it 13 different ways. And as you get better at teaching, you can say it in fewer words. And so that's where I'm really trying to develop my skill set, and is how I communicate complex issues and complex topics in the swing in a very simple way so anybody can get it. So that's why I like to think I could teach a 7-year-old and then I could teach a 77-year-old. So um,
Well, we're
it's helpful. So
well, we're
that's my background, kind of coming through just intramural and little league sports all the way into college athletics, and then moving back into golf and turning into a hopefully a competent golf instructor and golf professional.
I think you've proven that you're quite good. But to
Thank
do
you.
the back up for just a second, if I can take you back, you
Yes.
talked about your neighborhood, but not being prolific for
Yeah.
taking somebody of your size in particular to golf,
Yeah.
and probably not even to soccer, I guess, even though you were really good at that.
Yeah.
They did not yet have first tee, did they?
No. No.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Burke,
So
hang on one sec. I
okay.
want Burke to
Yeah.
interject here, especially because Burke has to leave to the airport at some point and he may disappear on us. Burke, can you talk to Chris a little bit about your background related to First Tee and
Well, my
share
my
that?
back yeah, my background is a little bit with First Tee, and Chris knows I played golf for quite a while. And Mac O'Grady was quite a comeback story. It's too bad we can't have him in the show.
Yeah.
Uh, one thing and I think when you're talking about the force on the ball, Chris, he could play from
Yes.
either side. And as I
Yes.
recall, he didn't ever want to hit a fade. So if he had to hit a right to left shot, he'd just turn around and hook it left-handed, as opposed to hitting a cut right-handed. But
Yeah.
that's lore. Brian, the one I've been more involved with is the Western Golf Association, which is the Evans Scholar Foundation, which is based out of Gulf, Illinois, and it puts children who grow up in And it's just a great charity, and it's mostly in the Midwest and out here on the West Coast. It's growing. It's the largest private scholarship foundation in the United States, with over 1,000 kids on full ride scholarships right now. But the essence of that charity is finding kids that don't really even play golf. What they are is caddies. Some
Yes.
of them play golf, but mostly what they do is get a certain number of loops in, which is 100 or more. They have economic needs, so they come from, the stories are incredible. The backgrounds they come from to excel the way they do, both educationally and philanthropically at a very young age. And then they go through a process that awards the winners. And as I said, I think there's maybe close to 1,200 now currently in college on full rides, tuition, room and board and books. And that one's been near and dear to my heart. One of the guys I played in college with has been the director of the First Tee down in San Francisco for a long time. So I'm also familiar with that organization and served on one of their committees here in town. Also a great group, and that group is really hitting kids at a younger age and getting them involved in golf. Versus Evans, you're involved because you're caddying, but a lot of them can't play golf at all. They just are very good caddies. So it's a great program, and any one of those scholars, of which I know many, could come on to our comeback cast and talk about the comeback they made through great adversity at a very young age. So that's a great idea. We could get a lot of them, Brian.
So the one thing though, Chris, that you missed in your background and is where you are today, and what you do today at the place that you're located. So please tell us, where are you?
I'm in Tampa, Florida. I'm in an area of Tampa, the northeast sector of Tampa, where they'd call New Tampa. I'm at a club called Heritage Isles Golf and Country Club. It's a public golf course. We do have a few members. That seems to be the model in Tampa. In Florida, maybe it's kind of a semi-private model, where you have enough members, but then you also allow daily fee play, which is great for me because I get a lot of people who are just entering into the game, and I want to help. And I just want to piggyback on something I think is really important in the whole story here. What Burke said with the Evans Scholar Program and the First Tee. I think we would have had a generation of really good golfers coming out of just middle class, lower middle class ranks starting years ago if the barrier of entry wasn't so high for instruction. And what I mean is when I started looking around for help with my game, the costs associated with getting the best instructors that had the best information was just so high. And so I think what happens there is either people don't feel like they can progress in the game because they're just not getting the right mentorship and the right information, or they have to go to somewhere before the First Tee and before these other scholarship programs. You just kind of had to take what was available. And sometimes that guy he was well-meaning and maybe had a good heart to help people, but the guy who was giving the $30, $25 lessons back then, maybe the information wasn't that great. So one of my whys for doing this was I wanted to give people who maybe couldn't afford the guy who's $500 an hour, who's on the Golf Channel and in Golf Digest, and he's got the fancy clothes and he's around all the tour players and writing the articles, and that guy was really hard to get to. And I was so fortunate to meet Andy Plummer and a couple other guys that were very instrumental. David Tarashi, who's teaches on the Live Tour right now with a player named Charles Howell III. And another gentleman that I haven't met that much, just a few times, Mike Bennett, and then another gentleman named Hank Smith, who played the tour and was a pro at Sea Island. These guys helped me develop my system for golf, helped me organize my information in a way that I could give it clearly to a player and help them. But I wanted to do it where the financial barrier was lowered. And I wanted to feel like a kid that maybe came from a middle class, lower middle class area like I did could still have a chance. And so I wanted, and I took a lot of flack for this, because people say, Chris, you're undervaluing yourself. You're underpriced. The information that you have is worth it. You should charge double what you charge. And I just smile and kind of nod my head. And I do have a responsibility to my family and to provide for my wife and kids. I understand that. But the reason why I got into this and go so hard like I do is so that the kid that might not have been able to get the best instruction or maybe not have access to a country club can still have a fighting chance. And that's a big why for me.
I have a quick question on that, Chris, related to your instruction today at Heritage Isles. Do you, because JP, my son, who you coach, and thank you, got started at First Tee, and yes, some of the challenges that even if you have funds of yes, finding a coach to get started is interesting, because yeah, you typically have to be a member somewhere, et cetera. It's not easy to find, but also, do you sponsor scholarships for, people to come to you? If so, that's something I'd probably be interested in doing.
Yeah, I would love, I haven't thought through that yet. We have had a couple players or adults that have maybe paid for a few lessons for a player. But no, we haven't formally developed any kind of scholarship program for maybe summer camps or something. But that's a great idea, Brian. That's a fantastic idea.
Well, I'll volunteer to be your first one. And maybe we'll do it as comeback cast, actually.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
To where we can
come the comeback cast, Evans scholarship.
There's something of that nature. Yeah. Yeah. So Bill, I know Bill had some follow-up questions for you too, Chris, and thank you for your story, and thanks for being here.
No, I love it.
Bill. Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the explanation on Evans Scholars. Their fraternity house was very close to ours, and nobody could ever really explain what it was, and you just explained it. So 40 years later now I finally know, and it sounds like a great organization. Chris, I know you're obviously working with Brian's son and probably a lot of younger people. What about older people? Like, I think I talked to you last time a little bit about, I think I was so expected to play golf as a sales professional. I just rebelled and I didn't play it because I'm an Aries, I guess. I don't know why, but now that I've got time and now that I want to, maybe get started, and I have no idea where to start. I mean, I can hit a ball, I can putt, not great, but I know very, very basics. But what would you suggest for somebody new into the field in their 60s?
Yeah. So it's a little joke before I get into that, Bill, that we used to see all these business guys at the course on Fridays, and there's a couple of sales guys there. And I remember asking, I was like, man, how are you guys out here on Friday midday? And they're like, well, I'm in sales. I'm not allowed to work on Friday. I have to play golf. It was like the joke.
It didn't work for me.
I know, exactly. I know you hate that, Brian. but that was the joke, like the guys that were the high achieving guys who would always seem to be around the course of the club playing on Friday afternoons in the men's game at 1:00. And it was a big deal. So, but a great question. And, I guess you have to, the challenge for you is finding an instructor that has a systematic approach to the game. And the reason why I say that is because the last thing you need at 60 plus is a bunch of random tips. We have more information now than ever before. We have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it just seems like there's a million instructors posting little 30-second tips. And if you watch those long enough, at some point you're going to get conflicting information. Yeah. And that seems to be the game. They just say, look, you just post because you can monetize the likes and the views, and they're not really concerned about whether a player can do this or not. You know what I mean? So one of the things that I would say when you're searching for an instructor is, do they have a systematic approach to teaching the game? Meaning, can they change the way that the instruction is geared towards a guy that may have a few injuries that they're dealing with, maybe he's had a couple of back or hip or knee issues that maybe a 13-year-old, 12-year-old's not dealing with at all. And then when I was trained, like, for example, say, Bill, you walked up to my range, and I'm paying attention to how you're walking. I'm paying attention to how balanced you are. I'm looking to see if there's any gait issues, if there's any imbalances in your shoulders or your hips. I'm watching everything. And when we're talking, we shake hands, and I might say, oh, okay, Bill, would you mind hitting a few balls for me? And you just warm up, and I'm watching what you do. I'm watching how you move. I'm watching if you bend down to take your glove out of your bag, for example. Is there any impingements there? Is there any pain? Am I hearing an ouch or ooh, or you know what I mean? Something there. And then as we're talking, I might just say, hey, Bill, before we get into the instruction, what other sports have you played? Is there any injuries? Do you have any pain anywhere? Is there any joints that maybe have a range of motion, a range of movement that's not in its full range of motion, maybe is a better way to say it. And I'm getting to know you because all those pieces of information I'm taking into account, and I'm basing my recommendations for what you need to do based on those. So that's why sometimes, as we love the tech, and right now there's a big boom in online instruction, but you really don't get that from an online instructor. Somebody who's just sending you a few video tips, and then you're sending them a few swings every now and then. You got to find an instructor that actually cares enough to talk for a few minutes and ask you a few questions about your background and your body before they start telling you, I need you to turn more, or I need you to flex this left knee more. You got to know if the player can even physically do it. And then after you get an idea for what their movement pattern is, and what they do in their regular day-to-day life. For example, if you sit at a desk for 9 hours a day, right, most likely we're going to have to spend some time explaining how the hips work in the golf swing. Because you might have some tightness in your glutes, you might have the hip flexors might be really tight, there might be some more mobility issues there. And so not only will we tailor the instruction for your needs, but there might be a recommendation to say, hey, I've got a physical therapist that could really help you with that hip mobility. Why don't you invest a week or two with them and get some stretches and learn how to move a little bit better and learn how to stretch those joints before you come out, so that we can get the most out of our time together. So it's really about,
guys. Chris, great to see you again.
okay.
Sorry to
Hey,
interrupt
sorry,
you.
Bert. Yeah, thank you.
See
See
you,
you in a
Bert.
few.
Safe
Have a
travels.
great one, guys. Thanks,
Where are
everyone.
you heading, Bert? He's heading to Thunderbird, just so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess
quick-
somebody who cares enough to it's not just pushing you through and making the money off the hour and then putting the next person on the lesson tee in front of you. Somebody who really cares to get to know you.
So quick question, Chris. In Tampa, Florida, I can go to Heritage Isles or find you online, right?
Yes.
To arrange to meet with you. Bill is up there in Northeast Ohio. Is there somebody or a network of folks that
right.
follow your philosophy that he would be able to find?
Yes. So I'm a part of a network of coaches, and the name of the network is the Stack and Tilt Network Instructors. And so it's not just all around the country, they're around the world, essentially. And so I would be able to, with great confidence, be able to refer you to somebody who has the same approach as I do. So that's really helpful. So I joined the network, Brian, as more of a support system, maybe a system of fellowship, because you can kind of feel alone out here. You know what I mean? You can kind of feel like you're just putting one foot in front of the other and keeping your head down and just kind of grinding through your day. And it's nice to have a group of guys that you can use as a sounding board. You can get some feedback. I could post a video of JP if I get stuck in a certain area and say, hey guys, what do you think about this? Where would you go next? This really good kid, he's trying really hard. We're hitting really nice shots, but we're having trouble with the driver. And let me post the swing and see what you guys think. So essentially, if you're humble enough to ask it that way, you have 1,000 different instructors that can help you, not just maybe, you know, living in this little silo and thinking that you have all the answers. So having that network is not only great for referrals, but it was great for me as a developing coach. I
Well,
really leaned on those guys. Yeah.
To our community here, the folks that watch and listen that are all over the world, they may
Yes.
be interested in, probably I need to get the information from you and post it up in our comment area and pin it up there so that they can not only find you, but also find that network to take advantage of it.
Yes.
One
Absolutely.
of the things that I also really like that you said the last time we were together was somebody like myself and Bill, who are in our 60s and are, you know, trying to come back professionally as well as maybe personally, is that you can easily adapt swings to our capability.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So, and go ahead, Bill.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I really I didn't think about this, Chris, the social aspect, because I think even, you know, as before you're 60 or in your 40s, and I wouldn't say it's just men, but I know men from my, you know, being one. But it's kind of a very solitary kind of life in many cases, especially since COVID and, you know, working remotely and things. I that's a great thing. I'd like to, maybe on another podcast, we can talk about it more in depth, is that social element, whether it be just with other guys, if it's, you know, mixed, whatever, just being able to go out and have fun talking to some people, I think is a great thing I didn't even think about.
Yeah, you know, Bill, I got the chills when you said that because two people came to mind right away. And these are two people that just came for a golf lesson, right? But through just getting to know each other, learning about them, learning about their game, helping them with their game, you become more than, and we talked about this on the last time we were together, it's not transactional. I'm not just executing a golf lesson for an hour and then get off my lesson tee, send the Venmo, send the payment, and then I'm on to the next. I just don't know how to do that. So we had one gentleman, and he's in his 60s as well. When his mom passed, he came to the range, and we held each other, and he cried with his head on my chest. You know, and this he's older than me. We had just done a few lessons together, but what would make that guy come to the range after he got that terrible news about his mother?
Yeah.
And then another gentleman that we've become friends. We started out as just instructor-student relationship, but you know, his father was a pastor, and his father passed of cancer. And on the day of his dad's passing, he always comes to the range and he just says, "Hey, can I just hang out with you? Can I just sit in the cart?" And special, you know, and it feels like it gives my teaching some purpose.
Well,
I think sorry, I was just going to follow up. I think that story alone of the man who lost his mother being able to just go find somebody, obviously you made an impact on him that he felt comfortable to do that. But these are the things that I think, you know, as we get older, and, you know, Brian and I are very close in age, but there is an element in terms of just, I don't know, connecting with people because I think we've spent our whole lives being the boss or being the breadwinner or whatever. And yeah, I really like that idea. And I think, Brian, that's another podcast with Chris if he's free. But I do like that very much.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well,
obviously it says a lot about you, Chris. that
yes,
people-
that's what I was going to say. And one of the things that I think is critical is the ability to, thank gosh, you're not transactional, because
Yeah.
that is really what makes you genuine and what comes across in your coaching, which I think is critical. But also with it, I did watch the Tampa Bay Lightning game, the last one, and it was mental health week or mental health
Yeah.
day in the league, and I think that is also what you're really helping out with in allowing people to develop that type of relationship. Come and sit in the cart and just be not alone.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
the beauty of that is to just be outside and
Yeah.
see people moving and living and
The trees and Brian, you know where our range is. It's kind of a unique golf range in that we hit into a lake.
yes, they do.
And,
It
and
is,
that
yeah,
kind of
floating
throws
golf
people
ball.
off when they
Yeah,
see that.
yeah,
You know, we hit off
yeah,
grass, we hit off real grass, and
yeah.
we hit range balls, but these range balls float. and but it's such a nice scene, isn't it? Like you
Yes,
got the
it is.
lake there, you got the trees surrounding the lake, you got a few floating targets on the lake, the sun is shining. I've seen a bald eagle land on one of the targets. I've seen alligators get into fights and mate, and we've seen, I mean, just everything out there. And it's nice to be out there. But just to double back on your original point, Brian, I feel like there's a loneliness epidemic among men, you know, and if guys were really honest, right, I would say that you could be around a group of people and still feel alone.
Oh, yes.
And what's interesting is golf is kind of like a singular sport. You're not a part of a team necessarily. I know there's some team events and a team component that's coming up in golf now, but it's really not, because you have the fellowship and the camaraderie of your foursome that you're playing with, or a buddy who you're playing with. Brian, you've seen it out on the range. People stop by just to say hi. People sit on the bench next to us when we're practicing. There's guys telling jokes. It becomes a community, and I think we're in dire need of that. One of the most toxic things I think we've been sold is this whole feeling of like you're this lone wolf guy, you know, that you said it, the breadwinner and the boss, and you can't show any kind of brokenness or weakness ever, and you got to have all the answers, and you get, sorry for this terminology, but you get kicked in the nuts, and you can't even show that you're hurt a little bit, you know. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And sorry about that, guys. I just need to plug this in. Sorry. And
No
yeah, and I want to create an environment where that's the case, whether that's a stable of juniors that can practice and play together. Like your son has been blessed enough to find his friends like Madden and Colin and some of these other kids that take lessons with me that they can play and practice together. Or if that's the 60-year-old who, back to what we talked about in the first episode, who maybe has a little bit more time for golf now because they've had a transition in their workplace or a transition in their career, and they're feeling that maybe picking up golf might help with their job prospects, or it might help at their new place of work to develop some connections with their managers or the VP, or the guys that are the high achievers. They're all members of country clubs and play on the weekend. It's just guys trying to find a place to fit in. We're all looking for our tribe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Well,
I want to help
hey,
facilitate that through the game of golf. I know it's narrow in its scope, and some people kind of laugh at it like it's just golf, but I don't think so. I think it's more than that.
well, at our age, I don't think that if I go out and golf with Bill, or Bill and I show up at your course at Heritage Isles to take a lesson, that it's our goal to be a professional. You know,
Yeah.
we're really there for to learn to do something that takes some effort, that causes us to move, but also allows us to potentially have that that community and some type of relationship with even strangers, to where, because you get paired up on a foursome or something of that nature, and
That's pretty
you
scary. Yeah.
yeah. As long as people don't, and you don't seem to be the type of coach that also would belittle me or make me feel bad for the lack of being able to even see the ball.
Yeah.
So
That's how I was. That's one of the reasons why I didn't coach football. I think I told you guys that. I don't know if that part got clipped out or not, but but um but in football, that was the style of coaching. I think they thought they were just toughening us up. You know, they were making us tougher. And I never had a coach, not one, that didn't cuss me out, didn't grab my face mask and whip my head around if I made a mistake, or would belittle you. You know, I think there were some really well-meaning guys there that thought they were just kind of getting us tough and getting us ready to battle, you know, getting us ready to play. I'm not sure if it didn't have an adverse effect on me and a lot of other guys I played with, but it wasn't ideal. And I was offered the opportunity to coach football right out of college. I was at a coaches convention with my father-in-law in Orlando, and I got to meet Bobby Washington, who at the time was the associate head coach at Michigan State with Nick Saban. And he offered me a GA position, and it was an unpaid position. So that was one reason why I didn't take it. I didn't know if I was going to be able to provide for my wife, but they were going to put us in married housing. But if I'm honest, I wasn't sure if I could coach like I was coached. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
yes,
I just didn't know if I could just be the yeller and screamer. And Brian, it wasn't modeled in front of me until I met my father-in-law. And then when I met him, through him, I was introduced to Tony Dungy.
yeah,
And there's the model right there.
yeah,
You know, a guy who can control 53 grown men, aggressive sport like football, all out, full go, egos on 10, and everything is 120 miles an hour. And this guy never raised his voice, never grabbed a player, never assaulted a player, never belittled a player. And, you know, I often say, like, we're only as good as our models sometimes.
Yeah.
And if I would have seen that, maybe I would be coaching a different sport. But I always knew I was going to coach and teach. I did know that.
You know, it's really amazing how somebody like who you were just referring to, I forgot his name, but
Tony Dungy, or
yeah,
yeah,
with such a different style, who you see is equally or even possibly more successful,
yeah.
you know, and what kind of impact that can make
Oh my God.
on you,
Yeah,
because you know, I think a lot of us are not, you know, somebody grab my face mask and just throw me around, you know,
yeah,
I that would probably piss me off, but it wouldn't
yeah.
necessarily motivate me.
Right.
But to see other very, very successful people leverage other skills and
Yeah,
still have those results, I think it also shows how you get there is kind of, you know, up to your own style and, you know, how you
yeah.
interact with people. But it doesn't have to all be that way. And it's, you know,
It doesn't.
it's too bad that you had some kind of negative um, role models, for lack of a better word, and you just thought, well, this just isn't me.
Yeah.
I've been in many situations where I thought, this is not me. I'm not going to do this, and then I found out. I saw somebody else. I had this one woman who was my early mentor, and she was the same way. She could go in. She could literally control a room of 500 people
Yeah.
without, you know, by being herself.
Yeah.
She had such, just such ability because she wasn't trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, again, probably another really good topic for
Oh yeah.
another discussion because,
Yeah, well, I didn't see it. I didn't even see it until I saw my father-in-law's name is Coach Gary Waters. He's a Hall of Fame basketball coach in Ohio. Um, and he's coached at several schools. He was a college coach. And obviously everyone like that follows sports even a little bit is familiar with that name, Tony Dungy. And when I had a chance to meet Tony, I mentioned that to him, what the topic that we're talking about. And he says, you know what, Chris, I, I played and coached under Chuck Noll, who was the longtime Pittsburgh Steelers coach. And he said, Chris, he never raised his voice.
Yeah.
And so
He barely spoke.
barely
I'm a
spoke,
Pittsburgh
right?
native, so that
Yeah.
was the formative years when I was a child, the steel curtain and all that.
Yeah.
So
You remember the Coke commercial with Mean Joe
yeah.
Green?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So where I was going with that, guys, is I was thinking that, you know, I was the kid that maybe if you put your arm around them and say, hey, you know, you can do this, I believe in you, maybe you would have got more out of me.
Yeah.
You know, I tried. Trust me, I still tried. I wanted to do well. But they, you know, they kind of approached every kid as I got to light the fire underneath them and kind of and beat them down. And so I've taken that into my approach with golf instruction. It's a difficult game. It's not easy. Every joint in your body is moving. It's accounted for. Some people have better balance and hand-eye coordination than others, so it may come a little bit easier to them, but it's a tough sport for anybody at any age. And if a guy's trying something new and he has the courage to come to lesson tee at 59 years old or 63 years old or 32 years old for that matter, and say, I want to undertake a new sport here at this age, I want to start a new hobby, then the last thing I'm going to do is belittle that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to put my arm around that guy and say, hey, you've done well. Like, this is not easy. Just getting out here, I want to tip my hat to you. Just having the courage to try something new and to challenge yourself to learn. Like, why would I spend any time discouraging that guy? You know, there's times where you want to, hey, we can do this. Keep going. You know, you stay on them. Your coaches need to be tough at times too, but never disparaging or belittling. And so I guess maybe using that in my past as a part of my toolbox to be a better coach in the future, you know, knowing that every person, you got to find a way to get that person to respond. And it's not always the same way.
Yeah. Well, those are all good points, and also very valid to this audience, as far as all things come out, give things a try, try to find. And it sounds like the link that we need to put in the comments for, and I something stack. What's your method?
It's so it's not a method, and I just want to say that just in case people get turned off by the word method. It's stack and till, and it's just a system. Yeah, it's a system for golf. It's not a method because method would imply maybe that one size fits all.
Okay.
And so what it is, it's a way to analyze the swing and help every player of every skill set and every ability level, because we're all different, find a way to communicate the important pieces of the swing, and so that they can have a fighting chance out there and be able to enjoy themselves because the ball is going in the general direction of the target. It's getting in the air, and they can have a good time, you know, and enjoy the improvement process. Because I found that I'm happiest when I'm learning.
Yes.
That's when I'm the happiest, bar none. It doesn't matter if it's, sometimes I'll go on these deep, weird rabbit holes into topics like ancient civilizations and stuff like that. I don't know where it comes from, but I just love to learn. I'm just always wanting to learn, whether it's a language, something new about golf, the body, communication skills as a coach. I'm happiest when I'm learning. And so I want to provide an environment where people feel safe to like try something new and to learn something new.
Yeah.
So that's in line with what you're saying, I think.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
but it's Stack and Tilt.
Stack
And
and
that is
Tilt.
the national network that
Yeah,
you could
that's
even
right. And there's a
refer.
website, stackandtilt.com, and you can go to the Instagram and all the socials and get the information. There's a spot on the website where if you're in another city or another state, you could look up on the map and find an instructor that has the same way of doing things as I do and the same general terminology and the same system. And the whole purpose there is you could go anywhere in the world and get, and you won't get contradictory, conflicting information.
Okay.
You'd be in a good place.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I think we're coming up on an hour here. I don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and Chris has had a full day. We got to let
Flies
him
by.
get out of his car.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
go spend some time with his family.
Well,
Yeah. Guys, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for joining us and I love the golf tips, but I also love the philosophical point of view. I think that they're really important and appreciate. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah,
And Bill,
Chris.
when you come down to Tampa, please come see me.
I will.
Okay.
I'm going to send a plane to come get you and take you to Tucson.